get it started now. Freedom, 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 freedom. My freedom begins at Life Force Canada.
Welcome to our Life Force Canada call. I'm Karen Klassen, and I'm here sharing higher ideas to keep you inspired, moving forward as we are releasing ourselves from this control system and creating a parallel society. How many of you have been following the global walkout? We just received step number 6. And for those who haven't been following, so step 1 was keeping cash alive. Number 2 was reigniting farming, connecting to local farmers. 3 was unsubscribing from all mainstream media outlets. Yay. I haven't had cable in a couple of years now. And 4 was supporting smaller banks. Step 5 was sharing your flag. And step 6 is community dinner tables. I really love that one. So this is where we're being asked globally, right, to connect, create community at least once a week, a dinner or a lunch with friends or family, and start building community in our own home, which is perfect because, winter's coming and this is a great place for all of us to have, family gatherings. Okay, our topic this evening is to have an open dialogue regarding what holds us back from true freedom. We all want it, right? What do you think is holding you back from crossing the bridge into a parallel society? So, yes, there's definitely a big part of us that wants this, but there can be those parts of ourselves that we can have a fear of letting go, fear of the unknown. So we're going to have that discussion. And then I'm going to have a meditation at the end of the call. We're going to focus on deep breathing because we know deep breath work is really beneficial, really helps to reduce stress. Okay, so we know that everyone who is listening to this call, whether you are here live, thank you for all of you who are showing up today. I know it's a holiday, but yeah, awesome. Or maybe you're watching the replay. We all have that core value of freedom. That's what binds us all. It connects us all. That drive to be free could be in all areas of our life, right? Financial freedom, emotional freedom, mental freedom, spiritual freedom, freedom from the material reality. But soon it becomes clear that only complete sovereignty, right, as in the total and complete experience of freedom, is really what we're desiring, right? The ability to make choices for oneself. That desire for sovereignty is a soul desire. And the more we tune into that frequency of that desire, the more we see how we've created our own shackles, our own cage in this reality. So we need to really become clear what that looks like so that we can cross that bridge. And in order to cross that bridge, we need to let go. We need to let go of certain things that we may be addicted to. So this is really a powerful conversation to have. So it's asking ourselves, how do we trap ourselves in this matrix? To me, the entrapment is in fighting the system. Fighting keeps us distracted from really remembering the truth of who we are, that you are consciousness, that you are a divine human being. You're connected to all the energy that flows through you and around you. There are many who are fighting for our freedoms, yet that term freedom fighter is a contradiction. We've talked about this before, but it's really important to remember that we need to drop the fight. It doesn't mean that we are letting them win. It means power versus force, right? David Hawkins, power versus force. We don't need to force things to happen. Our power is in the surrendering of what is and turning around and creating, right? Creating a new system. To fight using the tools of what they've been creating for such a long time. They've created separation, right? Politics, religion, sexual orientation, race, social classes, gender. All of that has been a trap to create that power struggle. And it really enforces that divide. And we see the divide happening throughout right now. And it keeps humanity locked into a control system. And that's what they want. They want us to fight each other. And then that fighting then justifies the control, more restrictions, less freedom. And then what happens? History then repeats itself. So we, of course, at Lifers Canada, we're not here to fight any system. We're here to turn around and walk over that bridge to that parallel society, to create new systems that empower all of us. Yes, we are freedom lovers. Yes. Freedom seeker. Love that one, Rhonda. Now, the question we're exploring again is how many of us are holding back from turning around and creating that new earth? Are we addicted to the matrix? And if so, why? And how can we release those addictions? So let's explore and redefine addiction with the help of Johan Hari. I'm going to play a video of him. He is an incredible man. You've probably heard of him before. It's really going to help us redefine what addiction is.
Earliest memories is trying to wake up one of my relatives and not being able to. When I was just a little kid, so I didn't really understand why. But as I got older, I realized we had drug addiction in my family, including later cocaine addiction. I've been thinking about it a lot lately, partly because it's now exactly 100 years since drugs were first banned in the United States and Britain, and we then imposed that on the rest of the world. It's a century since we made this really fateful decision to take addicts and punish them and make them suffer because we believed that would deter them, that would give them an incentive to stop. And a few years ago, I was looking at some of the addicts in my life who I love and trying to figure out if there was some way to help them. And I realized there were loads of incredibly basic questions I just didn't know the answer to. Like, what really causes addiction? Why do we carry on with this approach that doesn't seem to be working? And is there a better way out there that we could try instead? So I read loads of stuff about it and I couldn't really find the answers I was looking for. So I thought, okay, I'll go and sit with different people around the world who lived this and studied this and talk to them and see if I can learn from them. And I didn't realize I would end up going over 30,000 miles at the start, but I ended up going and meeting loads of different people, from a transgender crack dealer in Brownsville, Brooklyn, to a scientist who spends a lot of time feeding hallucinogens to mongooses to see if they like them. It turns out they do, but only in very specific circumstances. To the only country that's ever decriminalized all drugs, from cannabis to crack, Portugal. And the thing I realized that really blew my mind is almost everything we think we know about addiction is wrong. And if we start to absorb the new evidence about addiction, I think we're going to have to change a lot more than our drug policies. But let's start with what we think we know, what I thought I know, right? Think about this middle row here, right? Imagine all of you for 20 days now went off and used heroin 3 times a day. Some of you look a little bit more enthusiastic than others at this prospect. Don't worry, it's just a thought experiment. Imagine you did that, right? What would happen? Now, we have a story about what would happen that we've been told for a century. We think because there are chemical hooks in heroin, if you took it for a while, your body would become dependent on those hooks. You'd start to physically need them. And at the end of those 20 days, you'd all be heroin addicts, right? That's what I thought. First thing that alerted me to the fact something not right with this story. But it's explained to me, if I step out of this TED Talk today and I get hit by a car and I break my hip, I'll be taken to hospital and I'll be given loads of diamorphine. Diamorphine is heroin. It's actually much better heroin than you're ever going to buy on the streets, because the stuff you buy from a drug dealer is contaminated. Actually, very little of it is heroin, whereas the stuff you get from the doctor is medically pure. And you'll be given it for quite a long period of time. There are loads of people in this room who may not realize that you've taken quite a lot of heroin, right? and anyone watching this anywhere in the world, this is happening. If we believe that addiction is right, those people are exposed to all those chemical hooks. What should happen? They should become addicts. This has been studied really carefully. It doesn't happen. You will have noticed if your grandmother had a hip replacement, she didn't come out as a junkie. And when I learned this, it just seemed so weird to me, so contrary to everything I'd been told, everything I thought I knew. I just thought it couldn't be right. Until I went and met a man called Bruce Alexander. He's a professor of psychology in Vancouver, who carried out an incredible experiment that I think really helps us to understand this issue. Professor Alexander explained to me, the idea of addiction we've all got in our heads, that story, comes partly from a series of experiments that were done earlier in the 20th century. They're really simple experiments. You can do them tonight when you go home if you feel a little bit sadistic. You get a rat and you put it in a cage and give it 2 water bottles. One is just water and the other is water laced with either heroin or cocaine. If you do that, the rat will almost always prefer the drug water and almost always kill itself quite quickly. So there you go, right? That's how we think it works. In the 70s, Professor Alexander comes along and he looks at this experiment and he noticed something. He said, we're putting that in an empty cage. It's got nothing to do except use these drugs. Let's try something a bit different. So Professor Alexander built a cage that he calls Rat Park, which is basically heaven for rats, right? They've got loads of cheese, they've got loads of colored balls, they've got loads of tunnels. Crucially, they've got loads of friends, they can have loads of sex, and they've got both the water bottles, the normal water and the drug water. But here's the fascinating thing. In Rat Park, they don't like the drug water. They almost never use it. None of them ever use it compulsively. None of them ever overdose. You go from almost 100% overdose when they're isolated to 0% overdose when they have happy and connected lives. Now, when he first saw this, Professor Alexander thought, maybe this is just the thing about rats. They're quite different to us, maybe not as different as we'd like, but, unfortunately, there was a human experiment into the exact same principle happening at the exact same time. It was called the Vietnam War. In Vietnam, 20% of all American troops were using loads of heroin. And if you look at the news reports from the time, they were really worried because they thought, my God, we're going to have hundreds of thousands of junkies on the streets of the United States when the war ends. It made total sense. Now, those soldiers who were using loads of heroin were followed home. The Archives of General Psychiatry did a really detailed study, and what happened to them? It turns out they didn't go to rehab. They didn't go into withdrawal. 95% of them just stopped. Now, if you believe the story about chemical hooks, that makes absolutely no sense. But Professor Alexander began to think there might be a different story about addiction. He said, what if addiction isn't about your chemical hooks? What if addiction is about your cage? What if addiction is an adaptation to your environment? Looking at this, there was another professor called Peter Cohen in the Netherlands who said, maybe we shouldn't even call it addiction. Maybe we should call it bonding. Human beings have a natural and innate need to bond. And when we're happy and healthy, we'll bond and connect with each other. But if you can't do that because you're traumatized or isolated or beaten down by life, you will bond with something that will give you some sense of relief. Now, that might be gambling, that might be pornography, that might be cocaine, that might be cannabis, but you will bond and connect with something because that's our nature. It's what we want as human beings. And I think, at first I found this quite a difficult thing to get my head around, but one way to help me to think about it is I can see, I've got over by my seat there a bottle of water, right? I'm looking at lots of you, and lots of you have bottles of water with you, right? Get drugs, forget the drug war. Totally legally, all of those bottles of water, 50 bottles of vodka, right? We could all be getting drunk right after this. But we're not, right? Now, because you've been able to afford the approximately £1 gazillion that it costs to get into a TED Talk, I'm guessing you guys could afford to be drinking vodka for the next 6 months. You wouldn't end up homeless. You're not going to do that. And the reason you're not going to do that is not because anyone's stopping you. It's because you've got bonds and connections that you want to be present for. You've got work you love. You've got people you love. You've got healthy relationships. And a core part of addiction, I came to think, and I believe the evidence suggests, is about not being able to bear to be present in your life. Now, this has really significant implications. The most obvious implications are for the war on drugs, right? In Arizona, I went out with a group of women who were made to wear T-shirts saying I was a drug addict and go out on chain gangs and dig graves while members of the public could jeer at them. And when those women get out of prison, they're going to have criminal records that mean they'll never work in the legal economy again. Now, that's a very extreme example, obviously, in the case of the chain gang, but actually almost everywhere in the world, we treat addicts to some degree like that. We punish them, we shame them, we give them criminal records, we put barriers between them reconnecting. There was a doctor in Canada, Dr. Gabor Mate, an amazing man, who said to me, if you wanted to design a system that would make addiction worse, he would design that system. Now, there's a place that decided to do the exact opposite, and I went there to see how it worked. In the year 2000, Portugal had one of the worst drug problems in Europe. 1% of the population was addicted to heroin, which is kind of mind-blowing. And every year, they tried the American way more and more. They punished people and stigmatized them and shamed them more. And every year, the problem got worse. And one day, the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition got together and basically said, look, we can't go on with a country where we're having ever more people becoming heroin addicts. Let's set up a panel of scientists and doctors to figure out what would genuinely solve the problem. And they set up a panel led by an amazing man called Dr. João Goulão to look at all this new evidence. And they came back and they said, decriminalize all drugs, from cannabis to crack. But, and this is the crucial next step, take all the money we used to spend on cutting addicts off, on disconnecting them, and spend it instead on reconnecting them with the society. And that's not, essentially, that's not really what we think of. What they did wasn't really what we think of as drug treatment in the United States and Britain. So they do residential rehab, they do psychological therapy that does have some value. But the biggest thing they did was the complete opposite of what we do. A massive program of job creation for addicts and micro loans for addicts to set up small businesses. The thing you used to be a mechanic. When you're ready, they go to a garage and they'll say, if you employ this guy for a year, we'll pay half his wages. The goal was to make sure that every addict in Portugal had something to get out of bed for in the morning. And when I went and met the addicts in Portugal, it's fascinating. What they said is they rediscovered purpose. They rediscovered bonds and relationships with the wider society. It'll be 15 years this year since that experiment began, and the results are in. Injecting drug use is down in Portugal, according to the British Journal of Criminology, 50%, 50%. Overdose is massively down. HIV is massively down among addicts. Addiction in every study is significantly down. One of the ways you know it's worked so well is almost nobody in Portugal wants to go back to the old system. Now, that's the kind of political implications. I actually think there's a layer of implications for this research below that. You know, we live in a culture where people feel really increasingly vulnerable to all sorts of addictions, whether it's to their smartphone or to shopping or to eating. You know, before these talks began, you guys know this, that we were told we weren't allowed to have our smartphones on. And I have to say, a lot of you looked an awful lot like addicts who were being told their dealer was going to be unavailable for the next couple of hours. And yeah, a lot of us feel like that. And it might sound weird to say, oh, you know, I've been talking about how disconnection is a major driver of addiction. Weird to say it's growing because you think, well, we're the most connected society there's ever been, surely. But I recently began to think that the connection we have, the connections we have, we think we have, are like a kind of parody of human connection. If you have a crisis in your life, you'll notice something. It won't be your Twitter followers who
You need to get rid of your hair, Mike. I mean,
flesh and blood friends who you have deep and nuanced and textured face-to-face relationships with. And I think there's a study I learned about from Bill McKibben, the environmental writer, I think tells us a lot about this. It looked at the number of close friends the average American believes they can call on in a crisis. That number has been declining steadily since the 1950s. The amount of floor space an individual has in their home has been steadily increasing. And I think that's like a metaphor for the choice we've made as a culture, right? We've traded floor space for friends. We've traded stuff for connection. And the result is that we are one of the loneliest societies there has ever been. And Bruce Alexander, the guy who did the Rat Park experiment, says, we talk all the time in addiction, individual recovery. And it's right to talk about that. But we need to talk much more about social recovery. Something's gone wrong with us, not just as individuals, but as a group. And we've created a society where for a lot of us, life looks a whole lot more like that isolated cage and a whole lot less like Rat Park. If I'm honest, this isn't why I went into it, right? I didn't go in to discover the political stuff, the social stuff. I wanted to know how to help the people I love. And when I came back from this long journey and I'd learned all this, I looked at the addicts in my life, and if you're really candid, it's hard loving an addict, and there's going to be lots of people who know in this room who are angry a lot of the time. And I think one of the reasons why this debate is so charged is because it runs through the heart of each of us, right? Everyone has a bit of them that looks at an addict and thinks, I wish someone would just stop you. The kind of script we're told for how to deal with the addicts in our lives is typified by, I think, by the reality show Intervention. If you guys haven't seen it, I think everything in our lives is typified by reality TV, but that's another That's another TED talk. If you've ever seen the show Intervention, it's a pretty simple premise. You get an addict, all the people in their life, gather them together and say, if you don't shape up, confront them with what they're doing. And they say, if you don't shape up, we're going to cut you off, right? So what they do is they take the connection to the addict and they threaten it. They make it contingent on the addict behaving the way they want. And we began to see why that approach doesn't work. And I began to think that almost that's like the importing the logic of the drug war into our private lives. So I was thinking, well, how can I be Portuguese, right? And what I try to do now, and I can't tell you I do it consistently, and I can't tell you it's easy, is to say to the addicts in my life that I want to deepen the connection with them, to say to them, I love you, whether you're using or you're not. I love you, whatever state you're in. And if you need me, I'll come and sit with you because I love you and I don't want you to be alone or to feel alone. And I think the core of that message, you're not alone, we love you, has to be at every level of how we respond to addicts, socially, politically, and individually. For 100 years now, we've been singing war songs about addicts. I think all along we should have been singing love songs to them. Because the opposite of addiction is not sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. Thank you.
Let's all breathe that in. Process what he said. The opposite of addiction is not sobriety. It's connection. You're absolutely right, Jody. It's all so true. So the core part of addiction is about not being present in our life, right? So let's look at all the different forms of addiction. How are you maybe addicted to the matrix that we're in? I know that I used to be addicted to the shopping part of it. Now it doesn't bother me at all, right? We can have addictions to our phone. We can have addictions to the way we do things, right? The way we show up in the world, addictions to our habits. Yes, addiction to social media. And it's not the connections that we think we have, right? I loved when you shared, if you have a crisis in your life, it will not be your Facebook friends who help you turn your life around. It will be your friends that you know face to face, that you're connected to, right? It's going to be your inner circle. It's going to be your intentional community. I love how he expressed that rat park experiment, where when they have everything they want, there are no addictions. They don't go after the heroin. They don't go after the drug. And I do see how that, in us creating the intentional community, our future, that parallel society, that we're going to be releasing all of these addictions. And to me, that is very exciting. So that said, we still have an identity, right, that is embedded in the matrix. And it can be really difficult to unplug. Most people are hooked into all the systems, and they are hooked to the identity that we have of ourselves in the system. Again, we all have these physical needs, food, water, clean air, etc. And we also have deep psychological needs. And those need to be met. We have to have and see that our life has meaning, has purpose. We have that need to belong, and that you have a future that makes sense. And I do believe that that piece right there, where our future makes sense, is maybe, and I love to have a discussion around this, is where right now our future might not make sense to us, and that can be holding us back. And so I think that if we go through some solutions tonight, that we can really begin to manifest and create and know and remember that we have the power to create a beautiful future. So yeah, our disconnection from society has created the epidemic of loneliness. That was big when I heard him share that. Yes, LJ. LJ wrote, I believe the parallel society is all about those connections that we all desire and need. Yes. Yes, Sherry, disconnection from nature, our own divine nature. Yes. Now I know that many of are feeling the wounds, the so-called battle wounds of the society that we're in, and are feeling incredibly tired. We're just, some of us are like, I'm done. And as the frequency of light rises, it's going to be hard to see the benefits and the progress that we've made. And it can be easy to lose sight of this progress. So as much as it is a collective journey in consciousness, as we're shifting into higher realms of being, it's also an individual journey. And I'm just going to share some solutions that I believe can help. And then I'm going to welcome you to add to the list by raising your hand. So now we have what I believe is, remember, we're not here to fight the system. Anytime we resist anything, what happens? What we resist persists. So instead of resisting, what do we need to do? We need to drop the sword in our mind. Just we need to let go and drop the sword and surrender to what is showing up right now. When we surrender, and a lot of people think that surrendering is such a, oh no, it means that they're going to get, they're going to win. No, it's not. Again, power versus force, right? So in the surrendering, we're letting go of the negative charge. We're letting go of the frequency of this realm when we surrender, so that we can renew a more empowered energy within ourselves, a creative energy. So this is about writing a list of all the things that you love about this realm. If you're in resistance, right, we're going to create more of it. Love allows us to see a higher perspective, that all of this is part of creation. Everything that we've been experiencing, it's all been designed for the awakening of humanity, even the dark elite. It's all a part of the awakening process. I'm learning to overcome, my fears of authority. I think we all are doing that. And so this is where we need to say to ourselves, what is it that I love about this realm that I'm in? And what am I willing to let go of? Another one is to, again, visualize every day your beautiful future. Expecting the worst is a self-fulfilling prophecy. And they're doing that so brilliantly right now with all the movies that are out there. They're all dystopian nightmare movies, aren't they? A lot. So they're putting that, right, those images in our mind so that we stay below the line. So we stay in the fear frequency. So we need to reverse engineer and create in our minds the beautiful future. We need to see ourselves dancing and laughing, connecting, bonding, and to know that our intentional communities are going to be exactly what we want them to be. We need to see that new earth and to trust in ourselves, right? To trust that we have the power to create the reality that we want. And we also need to get real, right? We need to get real with who we are. We need to get real with where we're at in our life, right? We need to get real with our own addictions. What addictions are you ready to admit to? And now that you know that addiction is the opposite of connection, what connections are you ready to heal and embrace? Yes, Jody, Handmaid's Tale. That's what they're doing. They are sucking all of our life force energy anytime you're plugging into the system. And the system is Hollywood. The system is the banking system, right? All the healthcare system, etc. So we're learning to unplug from all of that. Another solution, of course, we all agree with this, is learning more about PMAs, private membership associations. We've got a powerful PMA workshop coming up. We're going to be sharing all that information this week on how you can register, etc. We know that the PMA is a powerful way to help you move out of the old corrupt public system, right, and into the private domain. Also, too, we need to release addictions if you have them, releasing addictions to the prescription drug reality. This is a weaning process. Again, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician, I'm not here to tell you what to do. This is the unplugging of a corrupt system to awakening to your own true power to heal yourself, right? This is going to require a complete lifestyle change. We have to remember there are 250,000 drugs in the physician's desk reference. 250,000 drugs that they push. And none of them are designed to cure anything. So all of them are designed to milk the Medicare system, the insurance industry. I have on our health and well-being ab.ca website is that all, Big Pharma made $1.7 trillion profit last year. A $1.7 trillion profit. So not a penny went to helping people understand how to get healthy. There is not a single pharmaceutical drug out there without a side effect, which is treated again with another pharmaceutical drug. So when we collectively have an understanding that they do not create cures, they create customers, the agenda dies and people get healthy. And that's how we unplug. So the more we're willing to look at our own lives and say, okay, what is it that I'm addicted to here? And what am I going to do to shift my own reality? How am I going to seek help? And that's another solution, is seeking help, seeking support. I don't know, maybe we just create LifeFirst Canada Brilliant Heart Circles, open space gatherings. I think that's going to be a really powerful solution for our intentional communities. We have to remember that all suffering comes from the mind through our memories and imagination. You've all heard Sadhgurus share this before. We need to take back our own mind and learn how to rise up above fear and really connect to holistic therapies. It's going to be so key, and it's just the practice. It's going to an evening workshop and learning something new, or a weekend. We need to let go of expectations. I know a lot of us are impatient. We want to create that parallel society now. We need to have patience, okay? We need to breathe in patience every single day. And also gratitude. Gratitude for the awakening, gratitude for everything that we have in our life. We need to say thank you, right? Thank you for what's showing up right now, because when we're in that high frequency, It really allows for everything that is not going to serve your soul to be released from your life naturally. There's a letting go, a natural letting go. And all of a sudden, the things that you thought you needed, all of a sudden it's like, I don't need that anymore. I get to turn over here. So the more we begin to turn over here, the more we walk the bridge and we take that one step, another step, another step, another step. And all of a sudden, hey, we have created that parallel society that we're all yearning for. Yes, Susan, thank you. Yes. The PMA workshop is going to be very, very exciting. I'm going to be sending out the information this week on how people can register for the Private Membership Association workshop. Yes. It is a gateway, 100%. Okay, we also need to be moving our body. The more you move your body, the more you release static energies that are connected to this realm, right? Moving your body is exercise, dance, right? Dance like no one's watching in your home. When you have a community dinner, it's turning off the television, the computer, the cell phone. Be out in nature. We all know these things. And it's just taking the action steps to make them happen. Okay, so I'm going to open up to open forum now and love for you to share solutions and how we can move forward together. Brian, hello, Brian.
Hello, Karen. That little video that you played, one of the things that he was talking on is reality is unbearable. So we are drawn to addictions, to that water bottle with the heroin in it, because reality is uncomfortable. We don't like reality. Now, I've been in addictions before, and I know all about, say, that reality that it doesn't make sense. So you wind up picking up some drugs or some booze and you escape reality that way. Now, one of the things I did want to touch on too is basically we are being brainwashed into conforming with these laws that are restricting our rights and freedoms. So our path is cut off all the time. And there's been plenty of examples in my life. And one of the latest is basically, when I started in construction, I didn't have to wear steel toe boots. The job I'm at now is steel toe boots, coveralls, hard hat, safety glasses, you have to wear gloves, you have to wear earplugs. And these are, you have to. And then if you're going to use a saw, you have to wear a mask and a face shield, and the list goes on and on. It's just kind of crazy. And I wanted to discuss this with the safety officer, and my foreman says, don't do that. You'll get me into trouble. So you're not even allowed to discuss this stuff. So one of the big things is, as far as, say, we're talking about, say, addicted personalities. I'm not too sure if other people will agree with me, but natural law, opening up our rights and our freedoms, is going to take away a lot of that confusion, and we're going to be more at peace with what's going on in our life, and we're going to have freedoms. And I think that in itself is going to be a benefit. Basically, free to do whatever you want. I think you'll make smarter choices, and you wouldn't be seduced into doing things that are bad for you. I think you make a conscious, logical decision to refrain from doing things that are bad for you. And this is a subject that I really like a lot, and I'm going to yield with that, but I might come back and say some more later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brian. Exactly. There are no addictions when we have authentically happy and connected lives. We're not even going to be looking for the drug, because we're going to be creating our own connection with life, and we'll be really connected to our own soul. We will be connected to our own purpose, and all of those realms that the dark forces have created on this planet won't even exist anymore. But thank you for that, Brian. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah, LJ.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Brian. I think that one of the piece that really hit me when he said that it is not being able to bear being present in your own life. And that's what leads to addictions. And the Matrix has taught us not to bear being in our own life because they've tried to brainwash us and program us to think that we have no control of our own life, that we have to be dependent on them for money, dependent on them for safety. After all, we're too stupid to know how to drive and not kill each other without a seatbelt. And, you know, we absolutely can't work without safety goggles and everything else, so that your vision is impaired, your mobility is impaired, and you're more likely to have an accident, but they don't care. But the one thing that I would say is when we're looking at the Matrix, and particularly the Matrix, it's which part of the programming are you still buying into that is making you not want to be in your life? And that's where it takes a lot of courage to go in and say, you know what? I am comfortable. I am very comfortable. This life is not that bad, so I'm just going to stay with it. There's little things that annoy me. I mean, I just picked up this week, did a rather big shift, and I thought, well, it's what I want because it's the life I want, the community connection that I want. And that takes introspection, and it takes being able to talk to somebody. And I think we need to really look at that for how do we end this and step out of the Matrix. It's finding the people to talk to. And it doesn't have to be direct family. As a matter of fact, for my case, that was a real boo-boo. But, you know, it's really about finding the right people to support you, to allow you, with all your warts, with all your crapola, to still come forward and feel good about who you are and know that you will contribute and that you have something to give. I don't care who you are. Everybody has something to give. And so it's just finding, what is that gift that I have? What is it that's so unique to me that I'm bringing to this community? And that's how we're going to step out. And for me, the Parallel Society is rediscovering our gifts and starting to use those gifts and share them, and honoring that no two people are the same, and nor should they be, because that diversity, that variance is so beautiful. And that's what creates a society where there's always something new. There's always something interesting. There's always something to piss you off and then figure out why you're pissed off. You know, there's always those things. But that's all part of living, isn't it? I mean, if we had every day the same, every reaction the same, every emotion the same, that's bloody boring. That's what we have now in the Matrix. It sucks. You're not free, you're programmed, you know? So I think that for me, the biggest escape is knowing who I am and helping others to know who they are, and then honoring that, even if it's not something you might really relish or resonate with. That's okay. You don't have to live with them. Just like, you know, just make sure that you honor who and what they are, and honor who and what you are. You know, I was just listening to the song, I'll shut up shortly. I was just listening to the song, Karen Drucker's Let Go the Shore, because I was thinking about tonight, and I listened to that along with the prosperity chant that she does. And I, oh, they're perfect. Absolutely so fitting. If you want to end with that, let me know. I've got it up still. But I think we are on the right track. The Parallel Society is absolutely the way that we're going to build and step out of the Matrix. And the only reason we're doing it is because we're connecting to create.
Yes, LJ.
You know? And so anyway, with that, I will yield. And that's my little soapbox. Thank you.
Thank you, LJ. Yes, it's all about all of us embracing our gifts, sharing our gifts, and knowing that we're going to be supported in the sharing of our gifts. So thank you, LJ. Beautiful words. Love it.
Thank you.
And yes, Sandra, absolutely. They are creating the metaverse, and wow, they are pushing that agenda so quick right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Olga, hello.
Okay, that's a great video, thank you. What made me think of listening to that video is, and hearing you, Karen, saying, drop the sword. I don't think I'll ever have chance to confront any of those that we constantly thought that they're our controllers. But what about my immediate and the most close to me environment, which is my family, my extended family? And I believe most of us here have family that's vaccinated, and I'm not. We had 2 years separation. And I was putting it on them why they're not contacting me. I'm the oldest, and I'm the one who helped almost everyone to immigrate to this country. How come they kind of took off elsewhere? What happened? Recently, we had family gathering, and I came to realization that this separation is not only me and them, but between each other, there's a great separation.
Mm.
Everybody suffers of something for me. I go, am I going to join this crowd of for me? Maybe I'm the one to, as you said, Karen, drop the sword. And I'm the one to show them that it doesn't matter why and how it happened, but we are family and we should stick together. Show that more often. They may not respond, not all of them may respond at the same time, but over a period of time, if your approach is with love, with compassion, with understanding, with not bringing up the vaccination, what it does to them,
Yeah.
but all the other good times that we had as a family, our gathering, our children growing up, and all that, would this family, these people, would that bring us together at the same point where we were before pandemic?
Yes.
I feel from some of them, they're breaking the ice, they're opening their eyes, they could see, and they do not understand. I cannot go with all my following, all my reading, all my learning over these years, what's really going out in the world. I don't think I should go with a big explanation as I know they don't. I had that experience in our Thanksgiving dinner yesterday at my daughter's place. They come up with a question, and I see how they're both, her husband and her, well-educated people. It's not a problem. We just stayed away from everything labeled as conspiracy theory. I just look at them on any comment. I said, you'll have to find out by yourself. I'm not here to teach you anything. You have to find out for yourself.
Good
Now,
for you. Olga.
why I'm going this far about family, bringing family together. I believe this is the first step for us to explore and count on that the love is still there, the connection is still there, but
Yeah.
we need to evolve. This is our first step towards building the larger community, which we call it intentional community, where maybe most of my family will join.
Yes.
I don't count, but say, for example, one more thing, now that from what I know, funding is closer than we think, that will be a very easy step to go forward. That's another discussion. With this, I yield.
Olga, thank you. Thank you. I
Thank
think
you.
we're all breathing that in.
Mhm.
It's so key as we are moving forward to be the expression of the future of what we see, the reality, right? Heaven on earth. What does that look like? We're kind, we're thoughtful, we are giving, we are generous, we're in gratitude. So all of those expressions of higher frequency energies are being called to be that within us right now, right? To experience that within ourselves right now and to be the example of that right now with everyone so that we're not creating separation in our own mind, that we see everyone that is on this planet, no matter who they are, what they've done, how they've showed up, is that we can forgive and love. And we can begin to heal the past. We can begin to heal everything if we so choose to. And that is an incredible, enlightened way to live. So thank you, Olga, for that. Beautiful. Jen.
Yeah, this is Jen Allstar in Manitoba. I really wish I could join the live calls more often, but I actually have a law study group on Mondays. Yeah, and I love what Brian shared. I totally agree. And I'm actually getting an online degree in paralegal because I'm just like that. Yeah, we need to do more in the courts because the solutions are there. And I love that you shared that TED talk. That's one of my favorites. Definitely. Connection. It's everything.
Mhm.
So something I've noticed is like I meet these like totally amazing people that I think are the solution and that say they want to create a better reality or a parallel society or heaven on earth, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, me too. And we get to talking and I listen to them and I hear them talking about like what's wrong with me or what's wrong with themselves or say things like, I'll bring up something awesome and then they go, yeah, but the problem with that is, or they'll say something really amazing or awesome and then they'll add, but da, 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 da. And so like we have the opportunity yeah the quality of our connecting with whoever is in our path, even if it's someone that we don't like. um I used to like hate when I would see homeless people begging in the streets, um especially when I didn't even have a job myself. But now I recognize it as an opportunity for me to connect with anyone, right? To just connect, to have more connection in this world instead of more put out more like ignoring of the suffering of others in the world. And I'm super grateful when I see somebody begging and I can't get a toonie out of my wallet fast enough. If I have more, it's like, hey, I have I'm being given an opportunity. I have actually more than someone else. Oh, wow. That's great. So I actually believe that I am the solution. And I'm not bragging or trying to say I'm better than anyone else. I just, in case you haven't thought of that, dear ones, like look in the mirror into your own eyes and say, I am the solution. I am what this world needs right now. I'm doing my best. You can even try saying, I create future now. I create future now. It helps rewire your brain to recognize the things that you're saying and what future they're creating. Yeah, so thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share and to connect. And I love what you're all doing. And I believe this group is the solution. Keep it up.
Thank you, Jen. Yes, we are the solution. 100%. Every human being on this earth is the solution. Thank you, Jen. And yes, I relate to you in so many ways. Every time I see, we have on the corner of our intersections, we can have some people that are homeless and they have the signs up. And and I'll get to the intersection and I'm immediately rolling down my window to give them change, because in my mind, I see them as an expression of God, expression of the creator. And how can I deny the creator? And so I just give my coins, whatever I've got in my purse at the time. So yes, it's a beautiful way to be. Sandra, hello.
Hi, I hope my Wi-Fi is sufficient to keep this open, so I'm sorry if it's spotty. Thank you, Jen, for that wonderful message. It's a very appropriate on this Thanksgiving Day, and I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. But I wanted to speak to the idea of this connection when you were asking about solutions, Karen, and this is, I'm just kind of speaking off the top of my head about the connection kind of, I've certainly learned this through you and through my association with Life Force, but the connection starts with the connection to yourself. And I think that's kind of what Brian was referring to when he was speaking of overcoming addictions as well. I'm sure that there was probably some aspect of coming to face with himself. Other people have mentioned about looking in the mirror, looking at yourself, and that until we can actually connect, I think maybe even it starts with nature first, then ourselves, then we can actually turn around and start connecting more deeply with people. We can have connection, I think, without that, obviously, but maybe it's somewhat superficial and that it doesn't necessarily feed our souls the way it should. And maybe it's not always based in truth and honesty, but if we're truthful and honest with ourselves, then perhaps that carries through with our other relationships. So I just wanted to throw that into the mix, I guess, and bring that forward. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I yield.
Yay, Sandra, brilliant words. Yes, thank you. As we move forward, we're all being guided. We're all being guided to do our shadow work, to do the inner work, to discover what our addictions are to this reality and how can we unplug step by step by step. And the only way we're ever going to do this work is by being in silence, in the frequency of stillness. I highly recommend meditation, as you all know. If we do not take the time to master our own mind, then what happens is when we don't master ourselves, we allow ourselves to become a victim to life, a victim to circumstances. So we need to begin to trust in our own inner guidance that you will be safe, that you will be supported on your journey, right? All of us here, right? We have to be really mindful of our thoughts because we know that energy manifests matter. And the more we rise up into higher frequencies and higher levels of consciousness, we're going to be manifesting a new earth. And we want to make sure that what we want to manifest is of the highest expression of who we are. So this is where you're going to be following your intuition, connecting your heart to your mind and body, and really learning how to utilize our imagination for seeing good, because our brain is wired for negativity. So we need to really be working on our thoughts and the images that this realm is showcasing so much of right now. So many brilliant people here. Who's next? Who has a comment or a solution they want to share? Brian, I know you said you're gonna, yes, there you go.
Olga was talking about like somebody may come up and start talking about a subject that she's got a lot of knowledge in, but she's not going to teach them everything. And what I have tried to do, been doing this for quite some time, is I will throw them a little bone for them to get started and invite them, if they have questions, to come and talk to me. And one of the things as we're starting off tonight, is so important to raise awareness to what is going on. And I take every opportunity I can. Now, the last thing I want to do is be disrespectful. I want to earn respect and be very careful on how this is all done. It is, I think, of major importance that we try to raise awareness, wake people up the best that we can. And if they are resistant, don't push. A lot of times we want to say, maybe raise awareness and discuss things. And some people are intimidated, say from authority, say where you work, maybe a foreman or a supervisor. I have found very little fear in talking about this with anybody, but it has got me into trouble. Now, I try to be respectful when I'm making these discussions, but what doesn't matter to me, if it's a lawyer, a politician, a judge, a police officer, my boss, I have really no fear in this discussion. We can do this to raise awareness. It can get you into trouble, even when you are respectful and even gentle.
Thank you, Brian. Yes, that's going to be one of the conversations that we're going to be deepening into in the very near future. It's going to be really important for all of us to deepen into that. Okay, everyone, I'm going to now share with you a meditation on deep breathing, a guided meditation to just sit and breathe deeply. If you want to stay for it, you're welcome. If you need to go, I completely understand because it is a holiday. You might want to go and be with your family. Love to all of you. Together we rise.